Hello everyone, it's Wolf King. What's up? As a rationalist, a skeptic, and an atheist, I have a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes imposed upon me by by lack of understanding of my lack of belief. And right now we're gonna break that down using as my assistant Ronnie. Alright, let's begin the video. AKA true empiricism, but it's not really empiricism, just basis claims.
Many atheists, they try to compare the disbelief in a God to unicorns, but the trivial comparison of this and a God is in no way comparable.
Actually, it is. You can disprove neither. You could disprove. You can't disprove a God is like some type of cause behind the universe. The same way you can't disprove that a magical flying unicorn exists or is involved in the universe. That's not a good reason to believe in them, though. Just because you can't disprove them.
You see, the atheism deals with a rejection of a base explanation of reality. So
No. Atheism comes from the Greek atheos, which means without God. Theism is the belief in a deity. It's not a base explanation of reality, because such a thing is independent of reality. It's beyond being real.
rejection of an explanation of reality consists of a reality without this explanation. And because atheists don't believe in a creative mind behind the influence of the universe, they are forced into a reductionist framework worldview.
No, see, as I said before, atheism is defined as the lack of belief in a god or gods. It has nothing to do with reductionism. You're just using that concept to redefine atheism, which is completely inaccurate and it's essentially nonsensical.
They must demonstrate counter explanations of a reality without the influence of a mind. Now, please.
Okay. No, not really, because the thing of it is, this is a lack of belief, and I don't have to provide evidence to be skeptical about a claim. The claim being that there is some invisible sky fairy or deity out there somewhere in reality or beyond it. I mean, this is your claim. The burden of proof is on you to actually prove your claim with empirical evidence. Not try to make my lack of belief out to be something to be proved when it's not. I'm willing to listen to any of your claims so long as they have empirical evidence, but they don't seem to really fit the criteria.
Pay careful attention. I'm not saying I am that you have my burden of proof and that you have to explain my worldview. I'm not saying.
No, that's not the implication. The implication is your implication derives from the observation that you don't know what atheism actually is. You've confused it through you've confused it with other concepts and through this video you made, and it just doesn't fit really.
That at all. The theist has his worldview, and the deist has his worldview that he must explain in order for it to be reasonably considered to be intelligible. And the atheist has his worldview.
No, wrong, dingus. Atheism is not a worldview. Atheism is a worldview like bald is a hair color. Atheism is a worldview like off is a TV channel. It is essentially not that. You cannot view the world through a lack of belief. That makes no sense. That's nonsensical.
The theist has his own burden of proof, and the atheist has his own burden of proof. They're both.
Oh boy. Let's skip this because I pretty much already made this clear.
I'm not going to be dealing with the subset beliefs, the subset beliefs of theism, deism, or atheism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. I'm not going to be dealing with those. Theism or deism or the belief in a God violates scientific investigation or is a violation to science. You see, science is the study of the observable, testable, natural world.
Yeah, you didn't hear it, but like he said, like under an atheistic view of science, with and that's essentially not it. Um, let's actually continue.
The problem is what is used to understand this material world are immaterial realities that can't be accounted for by a reductionist framework,
Okay.
such as the laws of logic or causality. You know,
Okay. Let me just explain this one little part. Now, first of all, there's no atheistic view under science. That's number one. Science follows this one principle known as methodological or scientific naturalism, and the reason that is because we understand that models with predictive capability are of utility, and giving science the ability to actually observe and test like natural causes and actual processes through the methodology of like observation, testing, measuring, quantifying it, we actually gather that practical knowledge through these empirical methods. And for over 300 years, these empirical methods have consistently discovered only natural things and causes underlying many things once thought to be supernatural. Things like lightning bolts, diseases, uh, like growing food, and so on. This is opposed to the supernatural claims, which had all failed to meet their burden of proof. And yet he claims that science would be better if we focused on things that we couldn't observe or test or anything like that. As supernatural claims lack predictive power as opposed to scientific naturalism, which does.
even not even realism. How can real
And the other thing regarding the issues like the laws of logic, causality, these things are simply true. The laws of logic, causality, and all these other things, they're value that we build on to develop thought and reason. But they didn't come about because of a thoughtful act. They didn't come out because someone thought them up. They are simply true. They are universally, transcendently true, and we use them as a way of developing logic and reason. And the rest makes sense.
realism, meaning to appropriate through our senses truth about the real world? How could this be valid under atheism? Because
Okay, not so much atheism, but empirical data. And the thing with that is, realism is not connected, or empirical data for that matter, is not connected with atheism. And what were you about to say?
if being forced into a reductionist framework, reality is perceived from the bottom up, not the top down. Since reality is perceived and reduced to chemical reactions in the brain, how can you trust that your chemicals are accurately perceiving the world around you correctly?
Okay, truth is the degree to which a statement corresponds with reality. And reality is limited to what we could directly perceive through our senses, through sensory experience, or ascertain directly by reason. We understand that through this we need a model with predictive capability, with predictive power, the ability to observe, test, measure, and quantify. And this comes from physical evidence and reasoned logic. As more physical evidence is gathered, based on convergence, a more better understanding of reality is made clear to people. And that is actually how we understand reality better. Much more better than anything that we can observe or test, rather than make intuitive assumptions and godly gaps hypotheses about. But actually, let's see if he has anything else.
Um, Consistent atheists actually take this to the point of questioning whether or not they exist.
No, not really. Pretty sure the universe exists and that you can learn something about it. Why? Because that's the foundation of our civilization. The ability to actually accumulate knowledge and like measure and quantify it and actually apply that.
So, under atheism, if the truth can't be determined or reality, science is better justified under a theistic or deistic worldview. in which its founders also realized it was only intelligible because a creator was behind it.
Okay, and no. Because if that's the case, if trusting the supernatural is the case, then you recognize that these things are like beyond reality. Supernatural explanations are by definition outside the scope of the scientific method. So it would just be boundless. It would just be idle speculation of thinking outside of reality. Without observable reality as a basis, there'd be no predictive power. There'd be no way to observe or test or measure or quantify whatever you're talking about. And this is essentially the thing. This is the burden. This is essentially the burden of proof for you as a person who accepts the supernatural, because I don't have to show you that there are natural, testable, quantifiable explanations and theories about the true nature of the infinite and self-regulated universe that we live in. Why? Because this is essentially what builds and makes the scientific advances of our modern society. That's self-evident. What isn't self-evident is the fact that, and what you don't really understand is the fact that you have the burden of proof for believing these supernatural claims. The burden of proof is on you to actually prove your claims. And what you bring up in terms of like what you have for evidence regarding like how you understand like things like laptops or computers are built is based on empirical data. You've read books, you went back to the factory. That's all empirical in terms of how laptops and computers or cars are made based on those components. That's all empirical. That's not proof for your deity, however. These are non-comparable things. You've observed and you understand how those things are made. However, this is different from your deity, which you cannot see, which lacks predictive power. And a lack of knowledge, which you make, which in regards to like the whole God of gaps hypotheses, is fundamentally flawed. Science hasn't made X yet. Therefore, let's just use the God of the gaps hypotheses. However, with the expanding growth of knowledge amongst mankind, the God of the gaps hypotheses gets smaller with each and every day. So the next time you come with evidence for a supernatural claim, make sure it doesn't invoke a logical fallacy. Alright, this has been Wolf King. Peace out.